Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us your takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review our show. And if you're listening on Spotify, there's a new feature where you can rate our show as well. Now, let's get to the show. Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1,
0.
0.
Lift off and the clock has started.
What's going on, Rip City? This is episode 36 of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. I've got Fawad here with me. How you doing, Fawad?
Not too bad. Been a busy week, but I'm happy to talk some basketball. Blazers.
Yeah, this is going to probably be a pretty quick little podcast because obviously it's All-Star break. There's not much that's happened, but I figured we'd get in here and talk a little All-Star basketball, a little NBA 75, and just kind of see what we got. So first off, did you watch all of All-Star Weekend?
I think I did. I don't remember if I caught the entire Rising Stars on Friday, but I think I got first semifinals, I guess you want to call it. I think I missed part of the finals, but other than that, I watched pretty much all of it. Oh, I also missed stretch of the third yesterday of the All-Star game where Steph hit like 3 in a row. I watched that afterwards, but I stepped out for like a couple minutes, so I missed that. But pretty much I watched the whole weekend.
Yeah, I watched a little bit on Friday, and then I watched all of Saturday and all of Sunday. First question I wanted to ask you was they made a change to they made a change to Friday as well, didn't they? They didn't do that last year, right?
It was they changed the format, and I thought it was really good, and I was really happy with how it worked.
Yeah, it was
fun to
enjoyable
watch.
to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did change the format on Saturday for the skills challenge. Tell me, honestly, I like this format. I didn't think I was going to at first, but after watching it, it was enjoyable. It seemed like the skills challenge was kind of getting a little stale, and people weren't really like for the last 3 years. Big men have won it, so it was like not that big men can't win those things, but it just seemed like people weren't really caring anymore. So, how did you feel the skills challenge part?
Yeah, I was really confused by the format at first. It wasn't even that I didn't like it. It was just that I didn't understand it. But watching it, I think I liked it overall. It definitely needs some tweaking, like the tiebreaker, for example. But I think overall it was a good format. And like you said, it's been getting a little stale, so that's why they change it up every couple of years. But I think this format could stick for a while. They make some tweaks. And, the first round I really enjoyed the shooting one. It was really similar to the Shooting Stars event they used to do like a long time ago. I think like they
Yep.
stopped it in 2014 or something. And I used to love that. I don't know why they stopped it. I think Bosch just kept winning, so they were like whatever. But it kind of brought that taste back, so I really liked that part.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. That was one of my favorite parts of Saturday night was that little shootout that they had. I remember them all lining up at half court to make that shot
Yeah.
at the very end. It was
So it reminded me of that.
yeah. It was fun, and it was kind of cool having like since it was in Cleveland, having like the Cleveland team, and then having the Giannis and his brothers on a team, and then having some of the rookies on a team. It was fun. I enjoyed it actually more than I thought I was going to. Next we had the 3-point contest. It seems like the last couple years that's been more enjoyable than the dunk contest.
Yeah, I think even the skills challenge I like more than the dunk contest this year.
Yeah, this year was one of the worst dunk contests. I'm not one to complain too often in dunk contests because I understand there's not much more people can do because so much has been
Yeah.
done already. But like when I'm watching a player attempt 14 dunks in one round because he can't get it, it's like it's just old, and let's move on from it.
Yeah.
But so before we go into the 3-point contest, while that was happening, trying to remember, was it Reggie Miller and there was two people that were like heavily pushing that they should switch the dunk contest first and put the 3-point shooting as the like to end the night. Would you rather see 3-point contest at the end instead of the dunk contest?
I would rather see the 3-point at the end, but I also want them to just get rid of the dunk contest at this point. Like you said, like everything that pretty much anything that you can do to dunk a basketball has been done. So like there's not much creativity left, and I'm like you. I'm not typically one to complain, but like even if they are boring dunks, like last year wasn't that great either. But as long as they're making in one attempt or even two, I'm
Yes.
like okay, whatever. Is enough. But this weekend, I think almost all of them took multiple attempts, and Jalen Green took like 15 on his first dunk or
Yeah.
something like that.
That
So
off the backboard one was terrible.
yeah, when it gets to that level, then it's like, all right, you know what? I think we're out of ideas.
Now, let me ask you this. I know we're getting off track already, but I'm sitting here watching it and I'm like, yeah, all these dunks have been done. They're having problems coming up with ideas. What about just having like, I always enjoy watching these like dunk versus block attempts where, you have a player trying to block the dunk and a player trying to dunk on the person. Like, that would be fun to watch. Just try to jam it on someone that's trying to block you at the same time. I don't know what what it's called. I'm trying to think of what it's called, but
The
like,
poster?
yeah, I mean, pretty much like you're trying to poster somebody and that person's trying to stop you from,
Yeah.
like, I think that would be more enjoyable at this point than just watching someone throw an alley oop to himself 14 times before he finally gets once.
Yeah, I saw
But
some people suggest that too. I think it's okay. I think my like hesitation with that is the blocker is like either he gets dunked on and he probably gets embarrassed or something, or he does block it and that's kind of boring. Like I don't want to. It's only fun if the dunker actually makes the dunk over him. So if he doesn't make it, I feel like that's kind of just as bad.
now, what about if they just use that as their, like, that's the regular dunk contest, but instead of doing some like between the legs dunk, they just bring somebody out to try to block them and they dunk on them?
I know I'm saying if they can't dunk on him, like if they miss, then that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
as bad as what it is
yeah,
now.
that's just as bad. Yeah. So let's get back on track here. 3-point contest was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Who did you have winning it before it started?
I wanted CJ to win, obviously. But I thought it would have been either CJ or Desmond Bain. Both of them, they had like two of the worst scores. So
Yeah.
I was
And I'm trying to
disappointed.
remember who I said. I don't even remember who I said, but my guy didn't win either. God, I can't remember.
And I'm a big Zach LaVine fan, and he did even worse.
That's who I picked was Zach LaVine. Thank you. Yeah, I figured he was gonna win. Ended up being Karl Anthony Towns, the
Almost set the
self-proclaimed best
record.
big man shooter. And you know what? He's shooting pretty good last night or Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm not
I,
sure who else is even in the conversation for best big man shooter.
I mean, you got Dirk.
Oh yeah, I was thinking like centers. Dirk's more like a power forward, but
Yeah.
fair point. Fair point.
For sure though, I mean, he had 29 in the final round, and he hit a lot of shots in a row, and he ended up beating out Trey Young and Luke Kennard. I think was the other one. They both, I think they got like 26. I think if I remember right. But he
That
ended
sounds
up,
familiar.
yeah, he ended up breaking Devin Booker's record of 28 points. So he got 29. So as of right now, he's the greatest big man shooter out there.
That was the record for the finals, though. Steph had 31 in the first round.
That's true. Good point. Good point. Yeah, for the finals, yeah. We can briefly talk about the dunk contest if you want. Like we've said, it was very, very subpar.
Yeah,
It
I'm
honestly
not sure what
wasn't.
else there is to talk about.
Yeah, Obi Toppin won, and it was pretty much by default because it wasn't enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
It,
Although to be fair, I think Obi was actually the only one who was actually doing like nice dunks.
yeah.
I was fairly impressed with most of his dunks. It was everyone else, and even Obi took a couple attempts on some of his, so it wasn't flawless. But relatively, he definitely deserved the win, even if it was by default.
Yeah, and the problem with the dunk contest is if you don't have like everybody, keeping the crowd engaged, even if you like Obi Toppin was doing decent, it just wasn't enough to like the crowd just didn't care at that point because everybody else was so terrible. within 5 minutes of the All-Star game, there was already like 4 better dunks than we saw in the dunk contest itself. So
That's another like flaw with the dunk contest. No matter what, in-game dunks will always be better. Even if it's just
mm,
a normal fast break dunk, it'll be more exciting than a 360 when you take like 10 minutes to do it in an open field. I think that's, I don't know. There's not a lot of ways I can think of to make the dunk contest as good as it used to be. There's too many issues with it.
I agree. One suggestion I saw before we move on to the last part is instead of the skills challenge, what would you think about like a one-on-one?
Obviously, that would be amazing. Even if we don't get the stars doing it, like even if it's just some role players or okay guys, I think that would still be amazing. But the issue is if a lot of people say that players wouldn't want to do it and risk their reputation.
Yep,
I
exactly.
think that you can definitely probably find like 6 guys in the league, or even if it's 4 guys who are willing to do the one-on-one. I hope they look into that a little bit more. But I think that even if I think say they don't want to do one-on-one, I think a 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 that should definitely be feasible. Like
Yeah.
maybe choose 4 teams to send their 2 best guys or something like that. Like if we had like a Damon CJ or CJ's gone now, but Damon CJ versus like Steph and Clay, that would be like a fun 2-on-2 to watch.
Yeah, we'd probably get torched because we couldn't play defense, but it would still be fun to watch. um, yeah. So let's move on to last night, the All-Star game. The first 3 quarters, obviously, it's more just about kind of showing off and being lax on defense, and everybody kind of just doing what they want. But once again, the fourth quarter comes around. They implemented that new rule for Kobe where they have to get the target score, which is plus 24 to whatever the highest score was. And that fourth quarter once again was pretty entertaining.
It was really fun to watch. I really enjoyed it.
You had Embiid and Giannis going at each other. Curry going absolutely insane at shooting, just crazy. We'll talk about that in a second. LeBron hitting the game winner to win it. I mean, it
In
truly
Cleveland.
was. Yeah, it truly was enjoyable to watch. So for me, obviously everyone probably knows this already. Curry just going absolutely insane. He had 50 points. He hit like what 16 threes? 16. Like I mean, the half court, like 2 in a row, just like the dude was crazy. I've never seen someone shoot like that in a game, even though it was the All-Star game, to still shoot that well. And it
Yeah,
wasn't
it
like he
was
shot
insane.
40 times. It was like at one point like 15 of 20. So it was
Yeah,
like
something like that.
it was crazy. Did you have anything that stood out, or do you want to talk about Curry?
Yeah, I mean Curry was just like ridiculous. He had 50. I really wanted him to break the record because um I feel like 80 didn't really earn it, but I'm not gonna get into that right now. But yeah, Curry was on like fire. I wanted him to, smash the record, like get like 60 if he wanted, but he missed his last six shots or something like that, so that was a little disappointing. Um, then LeBron had a game winner in Cleveland, so that was really fitting. And it was just overall fun to watch. That there were even in the first 3 quarters, even though like not much defense or anything, I still had fun. Steph was going off. There were a couple of nice dunks. I think was it like trade a jaw or something like that? Or was it 360? That was like really exciting. Overall, it was a fun game to watch. I was
Ja
actually
is slowly. Go ahead.
I was actually expecting it to not be as fun as it was because the teams were so imbalanced on paper.
I
But
agreed.
yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, Ja is slowly becoming one of my favorite players to
Mhm.
watch. Like he is just. My wife was watching it with me last night, and I'm just like, look at how crazy he is. Like he jumps so high, and it's like he's so fun to watch.
Yeah, he's so athletic. It's crazy.
Yeah. Memphis is in good hands with him. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was an enjoyable All-Star game. I'm trying to think if anything else really crazy happened. I can't think of anything. If you can, go ahead and shout it out. If not, I'm just going to move on to what happened. So at halftime, they had the NBA 75 come out and kind of acknowledge everybody that's in this top 75, which made me kind of want to talk a little bit because we haven't really talked about it about the NBA 75. For one, is there players that you think should have been in there? Is there players that you think shouldn't have been in there? For me, being totally unbiased, and I mean this, I truly think that Tracy McGrady should be in there. Obviously, he's my favorite player, but just some of the players they were saying like two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA. Tracy's a 7-time All-Star and a 7-time All-NBA player. So how those players that are two-time All-Stars and two-time NBA players are making it and he's not, I don't know. Same with Dwight Howard. I feel like he's another person who definitely should have been in there. To me, Anthony Davis should not have been in there. Dwight Howard and Tracy, I think, are better choices than Anthony Davis. Do you have anybody that you think should be in there or shouldn't be in there?
Yeah, obviously, I think Dwight. Everyone agrees that he should have been in there. I think T-Mac. Okay, so I think that if they did it like, I don't know how to explain this. If they remade the 75 list, then I think T-Mac should be in it. But the way the voters did it, they kept the original 50 and then just added 25. So that's why
Yep.
I can see T-Mac being left on because I think he's like just on the borderline. There's a lot of those guys in the top 50 that like, they're not in the actual top 75 of all time.
Yeah.
I guess it's disrespectful to take them out or something. So I can, I grudgingly understand. But I think either way, Dwight should have been in it. I'm with you on AD. I don't think he's done too much, to earn that. Even T-Mac, he's never really made it. I don't think he's ever made it out of the first round as the first option. So I can understand leaving him off. Who else missed it? Or
What about like Klay Thompson? Do you think he should have made it?
I don't know. He's also on the borderline. I think he's like right with T-Mac for me, where I would understand either way, and I think that part
Yeah.
of the fact that he was part of the Warriors kind of boosts him, even if his individual like stats might not seem enough. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I understand both sides.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, they did keep the original 50 in there. That's what made it hard. I think if you were to remove some of those from the original 50, you would definitely have Dwight Howard. You'd probably have Tracy McGrady. You probably would see Klay Thompson. I mean, there are names that I think maybe Vince Carter, maybe Chris Bosh. There are definitely players that could be on there if it wasn't just keeping the original 50. And once they get to top 100, maybe those players will be in there. I mean, I guess we'll see. But one thing I wanted to talk about, and I know this is going to be kind of controversial, but the whole point of this podcast is to try to be as unbiased as we can. So Damian Lillard is in the NBA 75, and I'm just like everybody else. I love that he's in there. Do you think he deserves to be in the NBA 75? Let me give you just a couple of his accolades real quick. He's a 6-time All NBA player, All Rookie NBA team, obviously, NBA Rookie of the Month, a bunch, NBA Rookie of the Year. I think he's 6-time All Star if I remember right. I don't have that one in front of me, but I think it's 6-time All Star. Made it to the Western Conference Final. Multiple 50-point, multiple 60-point games. So, in your opinion, do you think he should be in the top 75?
In my completely unbiased opinion, I think that, again, if we were to re-rank the 75 and ignore the top 50, then I think 100% without a doubt he makes the top 75. I think when you're adding the 25, it gets a little iffy, but it might be my bias, but I still think that he deserves it, even if I don't have the other guys like on me right now, but I think that six All NBA. I don't think even Anthony Davis has that. I could be wrong. Making the Western Conference Finals as the best player, not a lot of players have done that. There's a lot of like role players in that 75, so I think that he deserves to be there. I think he's borderline when you talk about 75. and it's 100% if you like re-rank to 75. The other thing is, I think that his career isn't done. So if they left him out and like when they were going back to do the top 100, or even in like 10 years from now, yeah, I think once he gets another All NBA or another All Star, maybe two, then you'd be like, how did they leave him out? So I think he's right on that borderline where whatever decision they made, I think that either way it would have seemed I don't know, I guess weird, but I think that's better to include him because it's more likely that within another year or two he'll 100% safely be in the top 75.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. It's hard to not have him in there, but I also could see why some people think he shouldn't be in there. I do think he's done enough to be in there, but I also would 100% understand at this point right now, the way they did the 50 players. I could see also him not being there. I agree with you. If it wasn't the top 50, then adding 25, he definitely would be in there. Truly being as unbiased as we can, I do think he does deserve to be in there. I think he has done a lot. I mean, multiple game winners. I mean, he's probably one of the most clutch players that the NBA's ever had. Um, you know, exceeded expectations when we blew up our team and there was no way we were going to make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden we make the playoffs and it's like been consistent every single year. Um, I I I have no problem with him being there, and I do think he deserves to be there. So truly, either way, it doesn't bother me because I do think he belongs there. But he's there. There's nothing we can do about it. And if people want to argue about it, I think there's other players that shouldn't be there over him. So
I was just looking at the list. Dennis Rodman, I feel like has no business being in the top 75.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm too young. I didn't watch his prime, but
I mean, he was a very good
great
player.
role
He's
player,
one of the
but I don't think
best rebounders.
Yeah, great defender.
Yep.
Top 75. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's other guys even in the 75 that are below Dame. I think that if you have a problem with Dame being in it, you should have a problem with like 3-4 other guys as well.
So let me ask you this: Russell Westbrook's in there. Obviously, there's this rivalry between him and Dame. I get why he's in there because he's got the triple doubles and he's got an MVP. But if that's all they're going off of, there's a lot of players that should be. I mean, Derrick Rose got an MVP. He's not in there. Jokic got an MVP. He's not in there. I think we both probably can agree we would rather have Jokic than Westbrook. Like, even when Westbrook was at his best, I think I still would rather have Jokic.
Yeah, I would too, but I think Jokic is already a lock for when they do the 100 because there's probably like number 70, or I guess 77. But he's like talent-wise, he's probably better. He's probably in the top like 50. He's that good right now.
Yeah.
I don't know when the exact voting was done, so maybe it was before the MVP, but I don't know.
That's possible too. Yeah, that is possible. I mean, yeah, I see why Westbrook can be in there. I get it. Another player that I honestly could do without. Maybe this is being a little biased. Honestly, I can't stand Paul Pierce, but I don't think Paul Pierce should be in there. But that's for another episode.
I don't have an issue with either of those guys being in it. I do. I'm with you that I don't like either of them personally. Especially since I'm from Toronto and Paul Pierce had a couple of heated series against the Raptors, and I didn't like him after those, but he did win a Finals MVP. I'm pretty sure he won in 2008. And he was just a really good player in his prime, even though he's nothing too special when you consider all time. But I think that I don't have an issue with him being there.
He pooped his pants. That's all I gotta say. Got carted off because he pooped his pants. Okay.
And he's a 10-time All-Star, so that's hard to argue.
No, I mean he does have accolades. I can't give him. I just don't like him much. He's definitely got a nice little elbow jumper, but I could do without anything else. Last but not least, before we wrap this up, the Blazers made a move. I think today, right? I think it was today.
Mm-hmm.
We waived Dennis Smith Jr., it sounds like he might end up being out for the rest of the season, and we only had him for 1 year anyways. But we ended up signing Trendon Watford to a 4-year deal. 2 of them are unguaranteed, right? If I remember right.
It's
I
5.8
know.
mil, and the last 2 years are non-guaranteed.
There you go. I was gonna say I know Full Odds got the numbers here, so we've talked about him before. We think he's actually a pretty decent player to have on your team. I don't think he's going to be some huge impact player, but he's definitely like a role player that you can have that can come in and play for you for a little bit. So I'm glad we signed him and are going to keep him for a little bit, even if it's for a trade piece. Although I truly don't know how many other teams would want him at this, at the off season.
I don't
But
think it's for a trade piece. I think we just believe in him as a role player. I think he can contribute, when we're healthy too.
yeah, and he's done pretty good this year. Like from the start of the year till now, he's developed. Like you can tell the
Sure.
little elbow, the little not elbow, sorry, the little floater he's got, the little hook shot
It
he's
always
got,
goes in.
crazy. And he's high energy. He gets rebounds. He plays hard. Just what Rip City loves and just what we need. So I'm excited to have him. Do you have anything you want to talk about him?
Yeah, I was really happy with that deal. 4 years at such a low price. I think there's pretty much no way that it can go bad, especially since it's non-guaranteed as well. And yeah, his little floater is so good. He's shooting 60% from the field. He's just high energy. He's a good defender for his size and for how young he is. He was an undrafted rookie, so for him to even be able to play meaningful minutes right now is already something fine, and I think he can continue to improve more.
Yeah, and honestly, one thing else that we can add that we don't really talk about, there's been some times where he's made some nice passes. He's read the defense well and made nice passes. So he's definitely developing, and it's good to see. But do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I'm good.
Let me look just real quick. I don't want to say the wrong date, but I think we have a game Thursday. Yep, Thursday. So we're playing the Warriors on Thursday, the first game back after the All-Star break, in Portland. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. We're back into this little teeter-totter of are we tanking or are we trying to make the playoffs? So I guess we'll see. But other than that, I hope you guys, if you're listening, I hope you guys have a good night. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Make sure if you haven't yet, if you're listening on Spotify, you can rate the podcast now, and it really helps let us know where we're at. And if you're listening on Apple, you can do the exact same thing, and you can actually leave a review too. To all the people that have left reviews, we 100% appreciate it. It really does help us let us know where we're at and what we need to work on, or if you're enjoying it or not.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say?
Yeah, we've just been getting, more listeners the last few episodes, so we really appreciate all of you, and, we're thankful that you take your time out of your day to listen to us.
Exactly. 100%. Other than that, Fuad, I hope you have a good night. Everybody that's listening, have a good night. And as always, Rip City, baby.